What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches back with another motherfucking video. It is Sunday, October 15th, 7:45 in the morning, and I am here to bring you some more overlay advice. As you can see, this is my client's real nails. She has been growing her nails for the past 2 to 2.5 months, and this is where we're at now. This is her final result. This is really going to be about some things that will better help you get a nicer looking overlay overall. Okay, so as usual, follow me on my social media, Nailsbyprettyface. I post there daily. Subscribe and notifications on here on YouTube. I'm in Sacramento for those who want to book me, and of course I have coupon codes and such in the description for your money saving pleasure. Amazon storefront is linked, and follow me on my personal page if you feel like it. So sea salt caramel is the color we're going to use today. This is from their chocolate bar collection. Y'all already know if it's not polished, it's not nothing. And I'm using the not polished liquid today because that's what I had at hand. Okay, so I'm going to be talking to you guys what are like some main things that I feel like are pretty much like just minor mistakes that prevent nail techs from having the best looking overlay. It's actually surprising how many people either don't offer this service or just have a hard time with it. And it does take practice. I will say over the years, I feel like I have like perfected my technique just from what my own brain has told me to try, and now I'm going to share that with you. Okay, so first major thing, well, even though I said these are minor mistakes, but I mean for the overall process it's a major thing that will give you a better result. Do not shape the nails before you put the acrylic on. The reason I say that is because technically when nails are in their natural state, we are not supposed to be filing all vigorously and crazy like we would with acrylic enhancements. There is a specific technique, and it's more of like a what they used to call that, like a rowing boat. It has a special name, okay? And it refers to the way you are supposed to file natural nails, which is in a back and forth motion, right? If you can see my hand, I'm going like kind of like a back and forth, back and forth. You're not supposed to do what they call sawing, which is basically how we file acrylic nails, okay? The reason for that is because natural nails are actually pretty fragile. Even if someone has strong, healthy natural nails, if you take an 80 grit file and you go ahead and file them down, you are going to be left with still some unevenness because it can cause the nails to break, rip, tear, etc. Okay, so that's first things first. As you guys see me here, prep as normal. Do not mess with the shape because that is what the acrylic is for. Okay, we're going to think of acrylic overlays kind of as veneers or acrylic toes, right? We're using the acrylic to enhance what's already there. Boom. So you guys can see I am using the one bead method, and it works out perfectly for me. I would say the next thing that is kind of like a little bit of a mistake, or just something to improve on, is the liquid to powder ratio for your beads. Now, the way I personally do overlays, I like it to look like a full set. So if you don't use enough acrylic, you are going to have a really, really thin enhancement, and that's not going to give you probably the look that you're going for. That's going to affect your retention, and it's going to look more like polish than an actual overlay. As you guys can see, I have the correct liquid to powder ratio that allows me to sculpt and move the acrylic around, but it still can go ahead and I guess fall with gravity a little bit. The reason why you want a bead like this is because you see how I'm going all around and getting the coverage. You need to cover the natural nail from the rooter to the tutor, sidewall to sidewall, and everything in between. If you do not do this, you will have gaps that is going to cause some serious problems later on. Even if this wasn't just natural nails, if it was enhancements, you know, in general. But you see how I'm going all around the sides. I'm making sure everything is nice and covered. If my bead was too runny or too thick, basically too dry, I would not be able to get this type of coverage. If it was too runny, then the bead would not stand up to itself, and I would not be able to maneuver it around as it dries. If it was too dry, then I would not be able to physically move it because it would dry way too quick, leaving gaps. Okay, so that is another thing that I think can be improved upon. I know I always refer back to liquid to powder ratio, but you guys, it really matters what type of beads you're using for this. Okay, I would also suggest using more acrylic than what you might think it takes to do an acrylic overlay, because we want this to last. This is supposed to protect our nails and help us to continue to grow them out. So if there's not enough acrylic, it's just not going to last. Okay, so the next thing that I believe can use some improving upon, as I talk to people in general and basically just from what I see online, is going to be the bulkiness. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about that later on because I am including some shaping and filing. But as far as the acrylic portion, I think people struggle with the bulkiness of the enhancement. You really just need to know that not a lot of apex is needed. Okay, some yes, so we can have some strength, but a lot no. There's no tip or anything like that, meaning there is no basically the weak point where the natural nail and the tip meet. That is really what the apex helps to support. So when you knock them around, they don't just pop right the hell off. But on a natural nail, there is no weak point where the natural nail and the tip meet. Therefore, you really don't need an apex like that. Like I said, I personally like my acrylic overlays to look like full sets. That's just my preference. You can make them look however you want, but I think this is something that we should take into account because the structure is something that's really important. Even if it is a natural nail, we do need some sort of structure. So as you guys can see, the structure follows the same structure as I use with just regular full sets, except for less acrylic and the apex is minimized. Okay, so I think those are like the three things within the application portion that you can really work on, because I know I personally did, and it gave me a really good and much better result. So we're gonna go into the filing portion, and again, I did say I did include like every single nail with everything, but again, I want to just speak to bulkiness. So at this point, we should be able to go around the cuticle area. We're doing any debulking, we're around the tip and stuff. We cannot ignore the underneath. This is like the major thing I want to say about filing with the e-file. Of course, we know that we want to get the flush cuticle area and stuff like that, but we can't ignore what's underneath, because sometimes, as you probably saw in the pinky, when things are uneven and we use acrylic to kind of make up for it, the underneath is kind of going to reflect that. So we need to make sure we go underneath and smooth out any areas where the acrylic was used to fix any like chips or anything like that. If you don't, it's not going to look nice underneath at all, you guys. And we also need to remember that underneath this acrylic is the real nail. So anything you mess with underneath is going to reflect on the real nail when you take all this acrylic off. So you need to be careful with how you're actually filing and shaping, because once these come off, that's what's going to be left underneath the real nail. Okay, so I really want to say we don't need to do a lot of C-curve enhancing or anything like that, because again, this is the real nail. We want to just do like what's necessary to make it look neat under there as far as the acrylic. So with shaping, now I'm not going to lie to you, I am making a big mistake right now using an 80/80 grit file, but this client had booked for a non-basic set, which is tips, right? She booked for a short to medium short set. Instead of booking the normal overlay, because she was a little bit confused. In my chair, non-basic means like acrylic designs with nail tips basically, but because she wanted a design, she booked non-basic, when I was like, oh no, you just book overlay if you're getting no tips. So I had already pulled out the black file. Really, I will use 80/80 zebra file. And the type of file, I'm mentioning this because I think it is a big mistake that people use either too light of a grit or too strong of a grit, which is why I recommend zebra files, because the grit itself, although it's 80/80, a zebra file is nowhere near as coarse as a black file, and it still gets the job done. Okay, so number one, switch out the type of file you're using. Okay, if you're using like a black file that is 100 grit, you need to go down probably to like 180 grit, okay, for natural overlays. And if you're using a zebra file, I would say 80/80 or 100 is perfectly fine for you to get a good result. So do you see how I'm checking underneath as I'm filing, right? You want to make sure that you're not under filing or over filing. Okay, so here is the next big mistake with, the third mistake in filing and shaping. If you file too much, you are going to hit a point to where the acrylic files through, and you're going to have areas where you can completely see through to the nail, and that's not what we want. Now, I will say my client does have darker nails. I've done her mom's nails before as well. They do have just a general darker coloring to their nails. You know, they are in a darker skin tone, but also she is a smoker, and that will contribute to the color of the nails. So we want to make sure we keep our coverage for things like that, because that's something that you don't want to necessarily see poking through because you accidentally filed a little bit too thin. Additionally, we want to make sure that we're filing enough so that way the nails are not wide and bulky. And as I am fixing little areas like this, you will see me continuously look under to make sure that I'm not actually destroying the integrity of the nail underneath. Okay, so once the acrylic is on, we're going to file as normal and go through our same process, you guys. Overlays are the exact same process as full sets. We're just not adding any tip. We're just using the natural length that the client has. So again, when I go ahead and I'm doing the rest of my finish filing, I'm going to go ahead and enhance the underneath because, again, in that corner where I'm at, there was acrylic used to make a corner. So I need to go underneath, make sure there's no acrylic dried weird or anything like that. We want to thin out the tip, and when we do thin out that tip, we want to focus on the acrylic. So you can't see, but instead of going straight under, like flush against the natural nail underneath, I'm kind of angling it up because it's really mostly touching just the acrylic. So you guys can't see that, but you see how I'm like angling it? It's so it's touching just the acrylic and really not the natural nail, because again, I don't want to do anything in this process that's going to permanently alter the nails for next time. Although you would be able to fix it the next time, you just want the client to expect that when they get soaked off every time, they look pretty much the same. You want them to look strong and healthy. So I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this video and these tips help people out. Of course, I love overlays. I love doing them. I love teaching about them. And I hope I'll see you guys in the next video.